Karatbars International. It's an absolutely wonderful company. We're doing great things, and we've got a great lineup today. Today I'm going to start with our first speaker. His name is Mr. Jack Baugher. Jack is actually living proof that you can be anything and you can accomplish anything you set your goals to in life. Jack was literally put out on the streets of Yakima, Washington, and I hope I said that right, Jack. That's a long way from Nashville, Tennessee. But I think it's Yakima, am I right there?
Yakima.
Okay, Yakima? Okay, well, there you go. At 17, as a homeless high school dropout, he fought his way back to one of the most well-known business opportunity personalities of all time. Jack has been written about in over 6,000 publications worldwide. He's actually been mentioned in Forbes magazine over 100 times. He's been in business for about 25 years. He has, well, in this industry for about 25 years. He's got an incredible track record of integrity. He's very well known in the industry, very well respected in the industry. And Jack comes from a world where, like I said earlier, he's a victim's advocate. He's trying to stop all the crazy out there and protect people and just basically make sure that nobody's out there scamming somebody. That's his job. And he saw Karatbars and he said this, he says, I don't know that I'm endorsing it, but I think this is the first time in 25 years that I can say and actually put out something positive about a company, because they do and say everything. They say and do everything. They do and say everything they say they will. And so Jack was, again, he went on a journey of due diligence about Karatbars. He, really dug in deep. He called me up one day and told me what he was going to do. He actually went to a refinery, and he's going to get into more of that. But Jack, one of his main things is how, things that he wants to get across is how not to be a victim of hype and misleading information. There's a lot of it out there, wouldn't you say? In this industry especially. And Jack kind of weeds through all of that and finds the nuts and bolts of a company and really finds the strength in a company and where we're going and what they're doing. Regarding his efforts to help others from becoming the victim of fraud and scams hundreds of times, he enjoys sharing his knowledge on how to avoid pitfalls of the business world, but how to succeed in it. And if Jack would come up and enter the stage, I would like to, for all of our Karatbars family, without further ado, to welcome Jack Baugher to the stage today.
Thanks so much, Caroline. Appreciate it. Is everybody enjoying themselves so far? Yes. Everybody have a good night's sleep and rest and enjoying the hotel? Yes. Hey, how about some of you older networkers? Did you remember those days when you used to be able to get up out of bed without all the sound effects? Good times, huh? Yeah. Well, listen, I'm not a professional motivational speaker or anything. I wasn't brought in for that reason. So I hope everybody grades me a little bit on a curve. I'm here today to really cover issues that are important to make sure this company is for the long term. How many people here today could raise their hands and say they've actually been the victim of some form of scam, misleading, bad network marketing company, something of that nature? Most of you, huh? It's not fun to put a lot of time and effort into something only to discover you've been misled, that you've been grossly misrepresented, and that other people made a lot of money from your hard work. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my background and how I got here. And I want to share actually some of the things that I have learned and some techniques and strategies along with compliance. Because compliance obviously is an extremely exciting topic, right? Everybody's saying, ooh, compliance. I know everybody was wanting to make sure they'd be here for that one. But it's important. And it's easy to actually find yourself in a spot where you're like, well, we don't really need to look at that. But I'm going to be encouraging you throughout this discussion to make sure that you have all the information about what has been put together by Karatbars so that you are compliant, and why that's important, that you print it out, that you learn it. We're going to talk about a few companies today, too, that some of you may or may not know, and what has happened, and why that if we don't learn from history and what has happened to other people before us, we're bound to repeat it. Does anybody remember a little company out there that had a couple distributors or two? It's called Zeke Rewards. Anybody? How many people? I want to see some hands. Yeah, there's quite a few out there that heard about Zeke. Now, Zeke actually had over 1 million distributors. Okay? And they used a lot of terms that were completely uncompliant to what the industry standards are and what could get people in trouble. And I've had a number of friends that worked awfully hard to build a group and organization, and unfortunately, and it might surprise you to know, not only did they lose their income after working long, hard hours and traveling, but now they have some wonderful folks that are called receivers, and they're coming after them to take all the money that they made and their commissions away. Now they've got legal fees and all sorts of costs. We don't want to see anything happen, not only to you folks, I don't want to see anything happen to Karatbars. And there's a big reason for that. I have a selfish reason. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that down here, but I've spent a lot of years in compliance, and let me tell you, it takes a toll on a body, working on all these cases and the negativity. And I got to tell you, what I've learned from Karatbars International and in my research has so inspired me that I'm slowly phasing out of what I do, and I want to spend the majority of all my personal and professional time working Karatbars. Take stuff lightly. Some of you may have heard the term of network marketing junkie or things of this nature. I'm not one of these guys that bounces around from thing to thing. I get into a project, I stick with it for years. My story starts with growing up the son of a pastor. We bounced around an awful lot growing up. I went to 11 different schools in the 11 years that I went to school. And we were from a rather draconian religion, and no disrespect to it, but we've moved on. My father spent 35 years in it. He's no longer with it. We haven't given up on God, don't get me wrong. We just moved on from that religion. But at that particular time, my father didn't believe in going to movies. And as a teenager, I actually enjoyed science fiction and movies such as that. And I went out and saw a movie in Yakima called Battlestar Galactica, and dated me a little bit, with a guy named Lauren Green. Some of you guys might remember him. Bonanza, and a few other places. Lauren Green was the captain of the Battlestar starship there. When I got back home, I discovered my dad was none too pleased that I went out to corrupt myself. And on top of a number of other issues, not anything that's out of the norm for the average person to do, he decided that I better, if I didn't like the rules at home, it was time for me to get out on the streets and see if I could do it on my own. Well, I found myself 17 years old, out on the streets of Yakima, scared, homeless. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a bicycle to get around on. But I did have one thing that I had learned growing up, and that is how to take care of myself. going to these church boarding schools and so forth. I had learned at 13 years old to go to a furniture factory, stand in church pews for 4 hours each day before I ever even went to class, taking care of myself, doing my own laundry and things of this nature. So I knew how to take care of myself, and at 17 years old, most kids today wouldn't probably do so well. But I went out there with a determination that one way or another I'd make it. So I did a lot of this, hitchhiking. I was one of these guys that you see out on the street with their thumb out. And back in the 80s, it wasn't as bad as it is today. Most of the time, you won't pick up a hitchhiker these days. But I'd get a ride occasionally. I learned that as a man, many times I could walk a long ways and it'd be several miles and I'd wind up walking with my thumb out, and you could see a girl, she'd just start walking down the street. She didn't even put her thumb out, and she'd get picked up real quick. So, you know, I started learning about discrimination. So I didn't let it get to me. But I actually decided to start doing something wild and crazy and said, okay, the chips are against me. I didn't get the benefit of a fancy education. I don't have a high school diploma. What am I going to do? I could sit here and play the victim. Okay? And it's easy to do. Some people are experts at it. I'm sure you've run across one of them or two. They're professional victims. Everything is wrong. The world's out to get them. Don't make any difference. They'll have a million excuses as to why they can't succeed. Excuses are one of the most ridiculous things ever manufactured on the face of the earth. People like to just come up with them, don't they? So I started getting my hands on a few things, and I got a pamphlet that had 100 ideas of ways that you could get some instant cash if you needed it. Okay, I need some instant cash. So I started reading these, and a lot of these ideas, I got to tell you, they were wacky. But there was one in there that said, well, believe it or not, if you get a can of black paint and a can of white paint and some stencils, you could start putting people's house numbers out on the curb, charge $5, they suggested. I went along with the suggestion. And this would help first responders if the police needed to come to a house. And I don't know how many neighborhoods you've been in, but I've been in a lot. And oftentimes, a police could go around the block many times or looking because you can't see the house numbers out there. So it made sense to people. So I started going out and doing this, knocking on the door, asking people if I could paint their house numbers out on the curb. And I was surprised. Before I knew it, I was making $30, $40, $45 an hour, cash money. This is quite a few years ago. Okay. Then I started discovering something about Yakima, Washington, and that is that we have the highest crime rate per capita in the state of Washington. Highest per capita, if you understand. I don't mean we have more in Seattle. But for 100,000 people per 100,000 people, we have the highest in the state. We're making in the top 10 in the U.S. all the time. So I started looking at getting myself something to make sure I was protected and getting all my cash in my pockets so I didn't want to get ripped off, robbed. So I went out and got myself a little tear gas device. And then I started looking at that and talking to people that I was out, some looking at me like they thought maybe I was going to rob them. And I started thinking, you know, maybe I should start adding something to what I was doing. So I started little flyers that I put together offering some spray products that I bought at wholesale. And as I did that, I started realizing, hey, I was selling a few of these. And I started doing some research and realized that there was something new coming out in the market called pepper spray. The tear gas had been around a long time. So I decided to get into the pepper spray business, and I buy a few of these and I started selling them to folks. And before I knew it, I started getting some folks that came to me and said, hey, you're making some money with that. Would you be interested in selling us some of those? So I started wholesaling to a few. Got a distributor or two. Before I knew it, I had 3 or 4 distributors, then 10, then 20. And then I finally was making enough money, I was able to open up a little office. And I started getting a couple girls that started telemarketing these things around the area. Long story short, I wound up with 100 guys and 200 guys and women. Plenty of women. Women were good at actually selling security products. And we had about 500, and we wound up with about 1,000 people that were buying some products from me. And then I started to actually get several thousand folks, and then we started getting some people that were interested in us actually private labeling for them. And I started selling to my competitors. I went out and sold to Mace Security International. They started buying some of my personal alarms that I started putting together, and I'm going to tell you about a little bit more of that in a second. But then I had a company that I approached called, I don't know if anybody's heard of Market America. Anybody heard of Market America? Big networking company. And private label products for them. They bought products from me, and we started growing and growing and growing. And as I did this, I started to realize that I needed to start adding different things to the business to make it grow more than it already was. And so I wanted to start adding something that I had got some experience in, and some networking. So I had a young man that I'd known since we were just kids. His dad was a pastor too, in the same church he was in. And he came to me and said, I've got this wonderful company that I want you to take a look at. They've got all these environmentally friendly products. Kenny Loggins is their, they're one of their key people that help push the company. I think if you started adding this and maybe put some flyers about that with your products, you'd do real well. So, okay, I'd be willing to try it. Why not? Maybe as we send out some of our products to people all over, then we can get some distributors. It made sense. So we started doing that, and after about 30 days, I started getting a lot of complaints. They said, how much time did you spend to check this company out? Somebody started asking. I said, well, I said, they're a big company. They're on the cover of Inc. magazine. It's the fastest growing privately held corporation in the entire United States. They must be doing something right. Oh, they're doing something right, all right. They're conning people. You go, what? So I started doing some checking, and I discovered something about a man named Bill Gould. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of Bill Gould. Equinox. How many actually remember? If you're older networkers, you know who this guy is. There's a few of you. So I started doing some research and said, oh man, this guy was the king of the front load. Garage qualifier. You better remember the days of being garage qualified. You'd come up and you'd ask, well, how much money can I make? They'd go, how big is your garage? You buy enough products with us, you'll be rich. I guess they forgot about it. It was important to get that out to the rest of the people, right? I mean, you fill your garage up full of these water filtration devices and overpriced vitamins and all sorts of stuff, and you'd get rich. You never left your garage, but you made it up to the top, right? You buy enough of this. So I called him, and I said, look, we've had some real serious problems. I don't think you're doing this straight up. I mean, you guys are selling pallet loads of products to my agents and distributors, and people are angry. We just want to look. We don't want to fight. We just want to get these folks their money back and move on. And this guy threatened me in ways that I wouldn't talk to a bunch of drunken sailors. President of the company. I mean, he threatened me in ways I couldn't believe. He said, well, I'm not giving you your money back. Who do you think you're talking to? Do you know who I am? I said, we're just trying to move some products, and we're trying to do our best for it. And I said, we don't want to be part of this type of a thing. It's not the right way to do things with people. So he said, well, sue me. I said, okay. So we did. And after about 3 years of this nonsense going on, a couple of millionaires and, for lack of a better word, a piss and match, I started realizing we weren't going anywhere. You know, just you're going to get guys who are going to, hire lawyers, and if you know anything about the legal profession, they'll keep you rolling around in circles with motions, interrogatories, request for production, depositions, and this stuff goes on and on. We weren't getting anywhere. And so I had some contact with a guy by the name of Mark Golden. He was the producer of a program called 2020. Has anybody heard of 2020? Barbara Walters, Hugh Downs, and John Stossel wanted to do a story on it. They said, look, we want to do this and use an undercover camera. Okay, if we're going to do this, we hear you, we hear what you're saying, but it sounds worse than what you're saying. So we want to go check this out for ourselves. Now, some of the stuff I'm going to tell you today, I'm just going to tell you right up front, it may sound like a lot of bull. I'm not one of these guys, I'm not a strong believer in bull, okay? I understand bull. I even know how to, and can interpret it a little, but I don't speak it real well, okay? So what I'm going to tell you is true. It's on TV, whether the tapes are there. What they got was outrageous. They went in there with these undercover cameras to a program he was doing called Journey Beyond Perception. It's $2,000 to come here to Las Vegas. And he packed 7,000 people in at $2 grand a pop, do the math. Now this wasn't, nobody got commissions on this but Mr. Gould, right? But we were calling it Journey Beyond Deception, not Journey Beyond Perception. And so they go in there with the cameras and they take a look at this guy's practices. And what I'm going to tell you is just almost flat hard to believe, but they got in there with the undercover cameras and this woman out in the audience, as he's talking and he's doing his thing, this lady gets up and she says something. And he says, "You shut the F up." He says, "If you talk when I'm speaking again, I'm going to knock you out, you disrespectful effing bitch." Wow. The 2020 cameras caught it. Now, I took my guy, he's still with me to this day, Hugh Sinclair, and he was, we had this suit called Sinclair versus Equinox, and John Stossel interviewed him. And to make a very, very long story short, after the program aired, Bill Gould's attorneys got a hold of our attorneys and said, "What do we got to do to get rid of this Jack Baugher? What's it going to take?" I said, "Well, you can start by paying back all the people that are brought into this suit." And by this time we had hundreds of people that we brought in from different states. He says, "Done." They gave back everybody's money in full, what their losses were. And then there was a little caveat, a little frosting on the cake, folks. They actually had about, I don't know, I can't remember, maybe it was 4 or 5 weeks. SEC came in. They seized all of his assets, clear to the Cayman Islands, took over $300 million, and banned him for the rest of his life from network marketing. Yep. Fact. Thank you. Harold Sykes cares about the people out in the field. I don't know how many people you guys know, but I was surprised to learn yesterday, first time I'd heard about it, that would take the time to learn English so he could communicate with the people here in the United States. I don't personally know him. I don't personally know him. Okay? If that isn't commitment, then somebody help me out because I haven't seen it. All right? You can sit back and decide, well, you guys want to do my thing, fine, and we can speak through translators, but he cares enough to want to make sure that this whole thing that you see put together, then this company's here for the long term. Look, people can do flashes in the pan, anybody can do that. But to decide that you want to build something for the long term, you have to plan. You got to bring in people that are willing to get up, professionals and different ones, and help explain to you the importance of compliance. And as silly as it all may sound, when we talk about compliance and the importance of it, we can literally have a company work their tails off to the bone, but if the people out in the field are running around half-cocked, it's not going to last long-term. And you know what? I think everybody, and I've been meeting a lot of you, but I think you're all better than that. I really do. There's no sense to hype. There's no need for the hype. Does this company stand on its own 2 feet? Does it? Yes. Does it have products good enough? I don't, you know, one of the exciting things about it is, good grief, it's gold. I mean, you don't have to go up to somebody and say, well, they're like, what's it all about? Well, they got gold. Gold? What's that? Has anybody had to spend time explaining what gold is to anybody? How many of you have been involved in a company where you had to have practically a PhD to understand all the different products? I mean, you got to understand the ingredients, and people will ask the wackiest questions. Oh, what kind of ingredients? Does it have preservatives? Do those preservatives cause cancer? I mean, you get to the point where you start really like, yeah, if I wanted to go through this, I went to Harvard and got a business degree. I don't want to do this. But you don't have to worry about that, right? This company stands on its own 2 feet. So I'm going to cover just some of the issues about compliance, you guys. And I'm going to ask you, in fact, I'm going to make a challenge to everybody that if you have not done this, that you will do it. And that you're going to go to the website and that you will take the time to get on there, click the English button, get the downloads, or well, whatever your language may be. Find your language, click it, download the section on compliance, print it out, and learn it. Okay? It's not rocket science, people. It's not rocket science. One of the things that I have people that they get scared all the time. They're thinking, oh my God, I'm worried. I might say something's going to get me in trouble. It's not that bad. Look, I have never decided not to go to the theater because I'm worried that I'm going to walk in there and scream fire in a crowded theater for no reason. Well, why? You know, I'm not going to walk into the airport and say, bomb! Why don't I do that? Because I know better, right? Look, this stuff that we're going to be talking about is stuff that you will, basically, it's stuff you'll know better not to do once you get it down. There's nothing to be afraid about, okay? It's just about getting familiar with it. So, use of the international trademark name Karatbars shall not be included in any affiliate URL or domain name. I hope everybody understands this. Look, it's important that you don't take stuff that belongs to Karatbars and start utilizing it. What's going to happen? People are going to think you're part of Karatbars, that you represent them, and you're an independent contractor. Okay? You're not an employee, you're an independent contractor. So you don't want to do that. The trademark names and all their images from the websites are the property of Karatbars. Now, I had people went out and took materials of mine and they cloned it. I had one guy, the worst case, he took my catalog, he cut, pasted even my cover letter out of there with my name. He took my name out, put his name in, took the pictures of our products, put it in one of the most bizarre looking catalogs I'd ever seen, and started putting it out on his own. I had to laugh, it was so funny, but our attorneys made sure he was aware. You can't do that. Okay, I mean, you just can't do that, folks. All affiliate sites must explain that you're an independent contractor. You're an affiliate. You're not an employee. Okay? You can't have people even confused that you're an employee of the company, because you're not. Now, if you are, I mean, then you talk to corporate and their compliance department and get some, get it approved. But in the absence of approval from corporate, you don't do those things, okay? That's, again, this isn't rocket science. This is just common sense, all right? All affiliates, when you're out there, must represent Karatbars in a professional manner. That sounds easy. Well, of course we're going to, right? I was watching a guy on the news here a week or two ago, and somebody was getting under his skin. He's a pretty well-known guy, and he finally just said, "Shut up and sit down." For any of you that watch the news, you know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to get into a big discussion about politics, because that's another one of those things we don't want you talking about, right? So have some patience and endurance. If you got somebody saying, "Oh yeah, how do you know this stuff's legit? How do you know it's not a scam?" You know, we're going to talk about that in a second, how you can deal with that, but don't allow yourself to go down to their level. It's a bad reflection on Karatbars, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, what you do under the banner, even an independent contractor of Karatbars, is a direct reflection on who they are. So we want them to look as good as we can. They've earned it, haven't they? Now, as I was just mentioning, stay away from the mention of government entities and political parties. You can, Karatbars literally has said on the site with compliance, you can get terminated from some of this stuff, you guys. Why? Because you don't want to give off the appearance. I don't care how dedicated you are to your party or your guy or your lady or whatever. That's great. And you can do that in the confines of your own home. And you sponsor dad. You can talk to dad or mom about politics, but don't do it in a group setting. Why? Because you could win the battle with that person and make them look small, but you'll lose the war, okay? Because they're going to walk. But you can make a friend out of that person. Just show them your patience and tolerance. We're all got our own thoughts and thinking, don't we? So respect the fact that these guys have that, and that you know, you're just better than them and walk away. Here's a big one. Folks, you gotta get this. This is where Zeke went wrong, one of the biggies that they did. And that's talking about ROI, return on investment. That's saved for financial advisors, okay? And as much as you may or may not like that, there's a reason for that. If you get people half-cocked out there and they go out and do stuff and they're not in compliance, they become the Madoffs of the world. They'll do a $50 billion scam faster than you can whistle Dixie. It just happens. And so, you know, I'm going to tell you guys, please, oh please, oh please, don't even get into things that even come close to like you're having a discussion about their IRA, investing in gold and all this other stuff. It doesn't need to be done. Again, Karatbars stands on its own 2 feet. People aren't stupid. Another thing you've probably seen on the national news, there's a lot of people who think the American public are stupid. Huh? They've got to protect us. So, look, give people a little credit, all right? They will figure it out, and if you point them in the right direction, you'd be surprised how many actual licensed investment personnel will encourage them to make metals a part of their own portfolio. But that's up to a professional, okay? Allow them to do the work. You don't need to. A big one that got Equinox International into trouble was posting incomes of affiliates. Okay? They used to do that. It was just crazy. Bill Gould, and after 3 years of litigation, believe me, I know more about him than the average bear. He actually did one of these things. He'd go out and he would tell the affiliates out in the field. He had a little line he used: fake it till you make it. You gotta have the perception that you're successful, whether you are or not. Lease a BMW, get a fake Rolex watch. You pull up to there and you hop out of your car and you let people know you're a success. Tell them you're making $100,000 a month, even if you're going backwards. You'll get a lot of fish. They'll flock to you. Folks, again, Karatbars stands on its own 2 feet. You don't need this kind of hype. If people are truly doing well, you'll know it, okay? They don't need to go out and buy a fake Rolex watch, okay? That kind of stuff is I'm sorry, it's for losers. People that really want to play the con game. They're like the snake oil salesman. They pull, and this stuff's been going on for a long time, folks. They pull into the old town there, and the guy would have his snake oil, and he'd be trying to push this, and people, sooner or later, a guy would come by on crutches, and, oh, don't listen to that guy, he's a scam artist, I don't listen to that. Well, sir, would you like a free sample? Oh, and he'd come over there, okay. And he'd take a shot of his special snake oil and throw his crutches, and he'd be dancing all over the place. Well, little did they know he was part of the scam, right? And after they get everybody's money, selling them some Kentucky bourbon or something, which they would feel good for a little while, right? They'd meet up out of town and hit the next place. Some of these guys in networking today, they're doing no less. Harold and the rest of the people don't want to see this. They want Karatbars to be what everybody else strives to be. The Cadillac of the industry. The gold standard, if you will. Alright? Had a guy out in the hallway the other day says, yeah, Karatbars, raise the bar on Karatbars. I said, yeah, that's right. Well, they want you to raise the bar. Wants you to have a little bit more respect for who you are as a person and who the company is. Don't need all the hype. Don't need the lies, okay? Stay away from public meetings. There's no need to run... some folks have the money. They want television ads and newspapers and have a big public meeting and stuff. Company doesn't want you to do that, okay? And if you've been in networking long enough, you know that. There are people that will come to meetings just to badger you and cause problems. So you're better off to have small, private meetings and things of this nature. And it's not because anybody's trying to do something clandestine or anything. It's just that, they want you to be able to work one-on-one with people. It's hard to do in a great big group setting anyway. But just stay away from that. And again, I don't remember if I mentioned it earlier with the don't give investment advice, but don't give tax advice. You can look. Everybody knows that starting your own business can have some tax advantages, and there's nothing wrong with stating that. But again, point them toward a tax professional to get that advice of how they can take advantage of that stuff. You don't need to start playing Mr. Tax accountant and giving people advice. You're hurting yourself, you're hurting the company. Stay away from that kind of stuff. Again, this isn't rocket science, folks. This is stuff that's just basic common sense, and once you learn it, then there's no need in fear and worry of a big screw up down the road, because you'll have it down. You're not going to worry about it. Stuff's easy to learn. There's enough negativity out there. We don't need to create any more. It's one of the things that you do. I spoke just briefly on it yesterday, and that is that, any idiot, and I do mean idiot, with a laptop can jump on the internet with 5 or 10 minutes and start saying all sorts of bad stuff about anybody, for any reason. They don't have to put their name. What are you going to do? The only real way to deal with that kind of stuff is to fight fire with fire. One of the things we're working on is getting positive reports out there about Karatbars that has the facts. Okay? And I hope you understand the importance of that, because if anybody has any kind of knowledge up here about business whatsoever, they'll do some of their own investigating. And I don't know about you, but I'm never going to accept a report by a guy referred to as John Doe on some rip-off report site or something like that. I'm sorry. I don't know how much credibility you would give to that, but there's none to be given to that kind of stuff. If you can't state who your name is and put your phone number as a reference for people, then you're a coward that's hiding behind a laptop in an anonymous deal, You're no better than some fat slob that's sitting behind the deal that's got himself as Muscular Joe with a six-pack, trying to get dates with a fake picture. I mean, you're no better, you know. So if you write this down, fraudandscam.com, use this and refer people. If they start going, well, how do you know that this isn't a scam? Well, how about we go to some of the experts that's what they do for a living. Fraudandscam.com does nothing but write negative reviews about companies. And you know there's only one positive review on this entire website? Guess who it's about? How about that? They just recently posted a letter from an attorney, international attorney, and he puts his name and he puts his phone number and information on there. This isn't a guy from the firm of Dewey, Screw 'em, and How. I mean, come on, this is a legitimate attorney, all right? And he's given some real positive findings that he's had. He's been willing to put his name and his reputation on the line, and you can use that stuff to show folks, okay? I mean, this is stuff that you can use. Don't allow yourself to be distracted by criticism, folks. I want you to remember something. The only taste of success some people have is when they take a bite out of you or the company that you represent. That's it. That's as good as it's going to get for these guys. Because they want to have somebody that they can put down and slam. All right? So ignore it. I'd rather focus and concentrate on the positive than the negative any day of the week. How about you? Huh? There's a lot of things that you can do. It's fully compliant. One of them is be excited. It's contagious. That's compliant. Be enthusiastic. You can be the most knowledgeable man in the entire planet about gold and freak people out with your knowledge and never sign them. They'll go on to another program where somebody just got in there and was enthused and excited about their program. Okay? So be excited. Pay attention. Get on calls. Listen to your upline. Lack of direction, not lack of time is the problem. Okay? Each and every one of you have something in common with the richest man on the planet, Bill Gates. You each got 24 hours in a day. Okay? All the money in the world isn't going to buy you more time. So if you've got the same amount of time as he does, what you doing about, trying to take advantage of it? When I first was getting into business, I had a company send me a box and a package because I was getting into security, and I got this bundle of products from a company called Quorum International. And some of you older networkers, anybody out there remember Quorum International? Yeah, they were out there quite a bit. Sent me this box. They put a set of tapes in there from a guy I'd never heard of before named Jim Rohn. Anybody heard of Jim Rohn? Huh? So I get this and I open up with my cassettes in hands. Back in the days, cassettes. I just kind of missed 8 tracks. But I got my cassettes and I popped it in, and he started talking about time and time management and the importance of it. And he started saying stuff to me like, he says, I've been able to experience some things most people never will. He said, I could do a meeting in one spot, sun would set, I'd get on a plane, fly 2,000 miles an hour through the air called the Concorde, and then I'd be able to get out there and watch the sunset twice at a second location in the same day. He says, and while you're waiting for your chance to watch 2 sunsets in one day, what are you doing about one, he'd say. Right? What are you doing about one? What are you doing with your time management, huh? Be teachable. Let yourself learn. I say people, I hear people all the time, well, they'll say stuff like, good things come to those who wait. I'm waiting. What? Good things come to people who work their ass off, I say.